That's it. We're live.
Oh, we are live. Okay,
That's
okay.
it. Bit of a
Hey,
funky intro.
everybody.
Live. As I mentioned, I picked this tune especially for you, mate, because it's the title is something Soleil. And I just, of course,
Wow.
it just fit perfectly. Perfect.
Beautiful.
Exactly
Beautiful.
right. Yeah. So first of all, thanks for being here. It's awesome. I gotta say, I have been watching your videos for a long time. It's quite cool.
Wow.
Before I even was working with Power BI, when I had something to do in Excel, and I had my Excel skills are very poor, by the way. You'd be if you watch me work with Excel, you'd be deeply ashamed.
Oh,
Um,
but you got it with Power BI.
yeah, well, Power BI seemed
Oh,
to be okay somehow.
all right.
Uh,
All right.
but seriously, I
Christian here. All right,
peace to them,
from
man.
Romania. Yeah.
Hey,
All right.
Christian, thank you very much for joining. So yeah, I could upset you by telling you I've never used XLOOKUP.
Okay. Okay.
VLOOKUP, index match,
Yeah. Yeah.
XLOOKUP, never tried it. Never
I
tried it.
never even tried.
No, no.
Good God Almighty.
I know. I'm sorry. I actually, as I say these words to you, I feel like I should just be thoroughly ashamed. But what are you going to do? I promise. As
Man.
soon as we finish this, I'm going to open Excel and I'm going to do a bit of XLOOKUP in your honor, of course.
Well, yeah, but that's after you pay this fine that I'm gonna issue you. After, yeah, you gotta. That's the price. Pay the fine for being ornery, and then you go
That's reasonable. I take
straighten
it.
yourself out.
I
Yes,
take it.
all
I take
right.
it. Oh my lord. Yeah. Thanks for
Man,
trying. I wanted I was watching some of your stuff today and looking at your bio on YouTube and stuff. One of the
hmm
things I also thought was really cool, always grabbed my attention about you straight away, was the way that you did your videos, of course. And it's very. And I was watching something today when you were talking about the reason you do the videos the way you do them, and you don't
hmm
kind of do the things that professionals do when you say you should make videos, like you should say like and subscribe and do a fantastic all this type of stuff.
hmm
And it's a
hmm
really easy thing to it's a really easy trap to fall into, just
Yeah,
think, oh, everyone else
Y-
does it that way. And
yeah, and I wrestled with that. Um, wow, I wrestled with that
yeah,
because it would be. Oh, and thanks, Christian. Thank you
yeah,
for making this choice. Um,
I gotta say, I didn't realize I was competing against Guy in the Cube today. Oops, but whatever. Thank you, Kristen.
wow.
Oh, it's good feeling.
Um, I often think of myself, right? I am a person in a community, in a
Mm,
world. I often think about myself as that first. I'm an Excel guy, an author, and all these other things.
mm, mm,
I might stop that next week, but I'm gonna still be in a community.
mm,
And me as a citizen, I am so tired of marketing.
mm.
So tired of it. I mean, I was going through my Instagram feed, and so many things are just somebody trying to stick their hand in my pocket.
Mm.
And I don't want to be one of those people. Even though, sure, I could be making a whole lot more money. My channel could be a lot bigger if I did all of that stuff. But I ran a nonprofit for a while,
Oh
and
yeah,
we did a newsletter, and we did all kinds of marketing things. And yes, it worked, and I felt uncomfortable.
mm,
And so I feel like it's important to say that I have I've accepted what comes along with it.
mm.
Okay, like if I'm going to be a jazz musician, I'm not likely going to be playing stadiums. So I
I get
can't
you.
decide, yeah, I'm going to be this jazz trombone player.
Mm.
And but why can't I get into Portland's Motor Center? Yeah, well,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I get it, but I mean, still, despite, I mean, I'm the same in some regards. I think marketing confuses me because I'm extraordinarily bad at it. Marketing
Okay.
is just, maybe if I tried more, but I can't do it. So I just kind
hmm
of focus on what I enjoy doing, which is,
Yeah, yeah,
random chats and bit of video every now and then.
yeah. And that was a big thing. about why my videos take the shape that they do
Mm.
is if I'm gonna do it, I've got to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And right, it's not completely about me. Nobody wants to see that. Uh, me
Mm.
watching TV. So I have to
You could
deliver.
try
So
it.
there, right? So there's a relationship that we have there, and in this relationship, we both need to be getting something out of it.
Mm. Sure.
Yeah,
Makes sense. Makes sense. I was going to pop up Jeff's comment for a second here. No hat, but you do have the collection of hats behind you. So essentially, you
I've
have
got. Yeah,
you don't
and
have you're not wearing a hat, but you behind you you can see all the hats. So I think it's
yes,
you've
yes,
won
my
really
hats are
numbers
there.
wise.
My hats are there,
Look at that.
and shoot, man, you spend money on a hairstyle like this, and then so I do wear my hats.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
um,
reasonable.
yeah, and Christian says he liked the post I did on Veterans Day. We can get to that if we like, but yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah,
Please.
no, no. So you're driving the train.
Yeah. It's all good, man. I was just
I'm a passenger. All
you
right.
mentioned that I didn't want to. You didn't want to go too much into stuff that you kind of spoken about so much already, because I know people always ask and talk about you're working in call centers and stuff and
Yep. Yep.
all that type of stuff. So we get it, we understand. But so maybe that goes along this. We can segue at some point into the Veterans Day stuff, because I
Yeah.
did notice, which I didn't realize. Maybe I'm just didn't read enough, that you also worked in like submarines and
Yeah.
you in the Navy, I suppose. Or
Yep.
this
Yep.
is
Spent a whole month of October '87 underwater on a submarine doing
wow.
surveillance on Soviet subs. Yeah.
That's
Um. hmm,
in my head. I'm just thinking, of course, the Hunt for Red October. I'm sorry, this is
yeah.
my only frame of reference that I have there.
Right.
I assume it was different to that.
And when they on the Hunt for Red October, was it that one or was it Crimson Tide? But
Crimson
there was the
Tide's
one
very
with
cool. I forgot
Sean
about that.
Connery. The
That's
one
Hunt for Red
Sean.
October.
Okay.
The Russian with the
Where
Scottish
they
accent.
mentioned the Crazy Ivan. Yeah, the Crazy Ivan is a real thing, and we learned about that
Oh,
and
really?
how to read somebody doing a Crazy Ivan and a sonargram, what that looks like.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
But yeah,
intense.
yeah. So the first time I ever touched Excel was when
Mm.
I was in a temp for one day at a yo-yo company in California, just inputting data. That was my
A
first.
yo-yo company. That's
Yep,
fantastic.
yep.
Was it the
Um,
number of yo-yos?
no,
Ah,
I don't remember what the data was,
yeah.
but I know that me and this other woman were there in a conference room all day just typing stuff in.
Mm. Wow.
Yep.
You
Um,
love some manual input, right? And manual input, maybe this is what drove you to lead your war against crap data.
yeah, eventually, yes,
Yeah.
eventually. But yeah, it would still be a few more years before I used Excel in a real way, and it was in the call center.
Yeah. Okay.
And the story I've told about my superiors complaining about I'm taking too few calls and my calls are too long, and
Mm, mm,
then I decided, okay, I can argue back or I can have any number of responses, but I figured they've got data and I don't know if it's right. I feel like I'm working.
mm.
So I decided for a week to write down everything I did, every call. If I had to walk over to billing or to the exam and grading department, and then I started to see patterns. I did not expect that.
That's
I
cool.
just expected there would be this long list of this is
Mm,
what I did. And then I
mm,
start thinking, okay, well, let me put in, okay, a tech support call, another tech support call.
mm.
Okay, somebody called in to ask about their favorite instructor and if that person is teaching in the Milwaukee area anytime soon. People who call in and ask for a bunch of prices and then they don't buy anything. I even wrote down if somebody led off with, I have called about this 3 times. Okay, so I wrote that down
Wow.
and patterns started to form and I made some ugly pie charts and a summary of my data and sent it to the president of the company. um
Not
and
bad.
this is where I warn, pick the ditch you're willing to die in,
Mm.
because I was targeted after that. Um, but
Oh,
because
so it wasn't like a moment of this is fantastic, fantastic, congratulations. More of this.
no,
No.
later on, um, we got a new director, and he saw that I had a skill.
Okay,
Um,
that's nice.
I still didn't have Excel skill, but
Mm.
he appreciated um, how I thought and how I dug around in the
Mm.
data. Um, but the president of the company took the data seriously,
Mm.
and some things changed. But my immediate higher ups, they were not happy.
Mm. Mm.
Um, and so then eventually I started moving around inside the company and seeing how reports hang together. And that was a real blessing. And I don't think I've talked much about that. But to go from customer service to exam and grading, and then accounting, and then back to customer service, but in a different role, that allowed me to see um, how reports are built
Yeah.
and the purposes that they serve, where they get pulled from, the different calculations that they go through, because $100 transaction is $100 in customer service.
Mm.
But then if you go over to sales, that $100 might be $80 because there's a revenue share that needs to be taken out.
Mm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the same data, but different entities look at it a different way.
Mm.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah.
I think this also, I mean, I was watching one of your videos today, and what you do quite often, which I really enjoy, is you take a question and you roll with this question and you try. So the one I was looking at today, for example, was speed dating. And
Mm,
there's 10 tables, and each person has to see each person, and to really go through this process and explain this person kind of like in some ways comes across that you've worked in a way where you've kind of looked at things from multiple angles before, you know.
mm-hmm.
It's a really
Yeah.
it was a cool video, by the way, but
Wow,
also
thanks.
interesting challenge. And also the way you look at it as well, like just the question itself may not seem so important, but you said if it's a situation where it's a different situation where these are cancer scientists, I think was
Yeah.
the example that you used. And can we throw this in? Can we throw that? What if we do that? If we ask this question and change this parameter?
Yes.
Really cool. It's much more involved. You know, it's not just okay. I want to do this. This is how you do this. Thank you very much and goodbye. It really
Right.
kind of
Right.
draws you in, and for the learning process, it's extraordinarily important because it's not just this is how you do it, and this is how you can do it and have fun with it. This is
Mm-hmm.
for me what I perceived, and I think because you had that history of looking at things in different ways and kind of having multitudes of different problems to solve,
Yeah.
maybe kind
Yeah.
of helped you lead you down this direction. Perhaps I don't know.
Yeah. So I have, when there was the layoff in '08, I started, uh, taking on clients and doing little bits of training and asking and answering questions.
Mm,
And it took me into so many different areas.
mm,
So it starts out with classroom data when I was in customer service. And then I did a project for a photographer
oh
trying to
wow,
figure out his pricing scheme. I even
that's cool.
helped a marijuana dispensary in Washington, uh, insurance agent, realtors, all kinds of people where I got to see the different needs, similar things. Um, all so I'm
Was that
also
through like a contracting work, like freelancing, or
yeah, yeah,
really
freelancing.
interesting? That's brilliant.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Even did some stuff around fishing lures for two guys in a major national chain who paid me under the table out of their own pockets because they didn't want to go through the bureaucracy with the chain, because they needed something tweaked in a workbook.
Mm.
And and if they go through the company's bureaucracy, it can take a long time, and then they can say no.
Mm.
But no was not an option for these guys,
Mm.
because things were getting messed up and they needed
Okay.
it fixed, and so they paid me directly. Um, but just so I'm just trying to make sure
Yeah, yeah, no.
I
It's
don't leave any loose ends here, because you mentioned, we talked about submarines,
yeah, yeah. It's
all the type of data.
I just think I mean in general I'm always interested in people how they've come to where they are, and because if you had
Hmm.
this, I mean for me I always speak about how I worked on an airline. I was a flight attendant, all this type of stuff, but I've never really spoken to anyone who came through this, like, from submarines to data, but also all
Hmm.
the the hugely different types of data. I mean for me, when I've been working with data, even though
Hmm.
I was always interested in data, though, even though I studied humanities and stuff, I worked in like a bookies, and that was really
Hmm.
good fun, like balancing the books. And just I think one of the most amusing mistakes I ever saw anyone make was we had these like really old school balance books, basically this has to match that, and then the number in the bottom right they both have to match.
Hmm.
And watching someone spend like half an hour just trying to change a number here, and then not understand if you change the number there, it wouldn't match here. And just to follow this, it was just quite an amusing thing to watch someone do. But
Hmm.
when I started working with data, it was always for like a, a big company. Like when I
Okay.
started, it was like for this huge German company who use make chemicals and stuff. So there was no like really interesting data. It was like very much like net sales and stuff and all that kind of stuff. It was love.
Hmm. Hmm.
1 second. What's it from, Jeff? I'll just bring this up here because I love Jeff and his comments. Uh, Angry Ram.
The angry ram. Yeah, the angry ram died a few years ago.
What
There
was
was
this?
a YouTube channel where these guys in New Zealand, they found this area where this ram lived, and it would headbutt their motorbikes, and they would put like boxing heavy bags up, hanging from a tree, and then the angry ram would hit it. And there was one time they couldn't find him, and then he was missing a horn when they did find him. And he lived a few years, and then eventually there was the video where they found him dead.
Oh,
But yeah, the angry ram is no more. Yeah,
that's
yeah.
Angry Ram, and perhaps also things that I love, such as what we discussed it really, really quickly before. I think it was in our Twitter DMs, your deep, deep love for LinkedIn polls, as I know is one of your.
Oh my gosh. And then maybe we can. Okay,
Yeah.
so right, so I. Okay, so my feed has suddenly been hit with all these polls on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And some of them are just like, do you run? Okay. And then something else was about, how long do you think the battery life should be on a Tesla?
Yeah.
And then some things get kind of inflammatory, where um they're touching on some touchy touchy issues,
Okay.
where the wrong answer can get somebody in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Um,
understand.
and yeah, so that's why I don't like those things, because they just seem to truly be about engagement. Is there's a low cost to
For
making a
sure.
poll, throw it out there, and then I really don't like the ones where the person who posted the poll then disappears.
To be, I think, I mean, this what Bernard just mentioned as well, the UI UX polls, which of these UIs are more intuitive?
Mm-hmm.
They are everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And Yeah, I think you have better reasons for hating them than me, and maybe I'm just like really grumpy and just can't stand the polls all the time. I don't see
Hmm.
something that's something that's so inflammatory, rather than just like, please, every time I open LinkedIn, it's just some random question that I just don't care about.
Yeah,
But yeah, sorry,
yeah.
this is like a
Yeah, and if not caring about it is one thing, but then seriously though is my feed has become
mm,
almost half polls.
mm.
And here there's a question about would I support teaching VBA for programming in high school or university?
Ooh,
That is a very big and complicated question
nice question for that.
because
Nice one.
I've got family who've been teachers.
Mm,
Um, I dated a teacher, and there's a whole lot of stuff going on inside schools. And I know it's so there's high school and then there's university. University, I would say yes. And I
okay.
like Mike Gervin. Excel is fun. I like his take on it, where he said it would be irresponsible not to show his students Excel because he's teaching them business data and stats and stuff.
Mm,
And if he stuck with MATLAB and some of those other things that can be expensive, um, if he doesn't show them Excel, when they get out into the real world, they're going to be in trouble.
yeah.
And I have dealt with that a lot where somebody has done all their stats and everything on expensive stuff in school. And then they get out to some 5-person marketing boutique firm.
Mm,
There's Excel. And these people panic.
mm,
They don't know how to work it.
mm,
So yes, in those situations, I feel like folks should be exposed to Excel. But in high school, that's a whole complicated thing. There's a lot going on there. Because like I grew up in a town where a small town where there were a lot of older people,
okay.
and they don't have kids in the school system anymore. So they don't want to vote for tax increases to help support the school. So the school is slowly withering away. And it
Mm,
was funny when my biology teacher, sophomore year, he seemed like, wait a minute, I've read stuff in the encyclopedia that was more sophisticated than what he's teaching. And then I mentioned this to my mother. Said, "Oh, him! He was my driver's ed teacher." Oh, okay. So
great.
that's what's happening with the school system. I
Mm,
mean, I thought he was a joke, but no, they're pulling the driver's ed teacher to teach biology.
mm.
And then I figured out what it was. He stayed about 2 chapters ahead of us in the textbook. So then,
Yeah.
when people go and say, there needs to be
Mm,
uh, Excel in high school or personal finance or
mm.
media literacy. Well, that's part of
So,
do
like
you
in an
want to
ideal
throw that
world,
into
yeah,
the, yeah.
yeah. I, when I was at school, we didn't. When I was at school, I actually was when I say school, I mean like high school, so high school, college type age. That was when the first time we really kind of looked at Excel and stuff, you know. And even then, it was because I signed up to do an A level
Hmm.
in computing, and because we spent the first like week or so, 2 weeks just looking at Excel, it's not what I expected it to be.
Mm,
I expected it to be like some kind of coding because I was kind of
mm.
this is back when I was really loving like HTML and stuff, you know.
Uh-huh.
I
Right,
expected it to
right,
be more down that direction.
right.
So actually, that's why I stopped doing it into theater instead.
Oh, theater. Okay. Okay. Well, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
But I think Excel should be thought of as a development platform. That at some level, yes, we are coding, we're
Mm,
developing. Um, when a company touts they've got the Excel killer, Well, it might be that they've got something that does scheduling better than Excel,
Mm,
but they have not created a full development platform
mm,
where I can also manage meals in it, or
yeah.
break data out of PDFs. No, their scheduler is not going to do that.
Mm,
So Excel is a development platform.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, just kind of trying to. I want to move to what you mentioned before as well, because it seemed like an interesting topic, and I wanted to dive
Okay.
into it if we
Yeah.
can. You
Yeah.
said looking at things where the Excel stuff is easy, but the situation is extremely difficult.
Yeah. Because one thing that I believe is important always is the context of something. That a lot of times, well, I went to this one company, and the sons were trying to take over the business from the father so that he could retire.
Okay.
Small manufacturing, family owned company. And I got in there, and because they wanted to run it by data. The father's perspective was, we don't need all this data. I've been running this company since the 60s. No data. We got good relationships with the company, with the clients and customers. Money's coming in. We got no problems. Inventory. I mean, we
Mm,
got a warehouse right over there through that door. Go look.
yeah.
Um, but the sons wanted data. So they brought me in, and they were talking about a question that they had about their data. And I made a pivot table. Okay, so a pivot table takes no time to do.
Mm,
And the guy's mouth fell open. You did what took me all of last weekend
mm,
in seconds.
mm,
But eventually the father walks in, and he has this what the hell is going on look.
mm,
This look of like, you brought this guy in here anyway. And that's when the pivot table was easy.
mm.
Dealing with this tension between the
Yeah.
sons and the father and wanting to take over, but he's only going to take over if you do things my way.
Mm,
I've been in the middle of an insurance agent and his assistant who used to be his girlfriend,
okay.
and they would talk in ways that like regular colleagues wouldn't.
Mm,
Um, and I'm there, and and we're meeting in his condo
mm,
versus an office downtown, or meeting at a coffee shop. So I, whew, that might have been the only time I've met a client in their home. Um, and they would get to bickering,
mm,
and I could tell that there was extra layers,
mm,
because I was building something, and she didn't want to be dealing with Excel. But if she was going to be his assistant, she's got to deal with the data and keep things organized.
mm.
Um, they cuss at each other. So, uh, but what else? Other things. Somebody asking, I need the sales data for last quarter.
Mm,
The analyst needs to know what questions to ask. You can go run and get the sales data for the last quarter.
mm,
Okay, so you got January and a number, February and a number, March
mm.
and a number.
Yeah.
That's probably
That's
not
it.
what they wanted.
Yeah.
Do you want this by product line?
Mm,
Do you want to see shipping and taxes? Do you want to account for any revenue shares? What headers do you want? Do you want the the rep that the sales rep that the account is assigned to. Do you want the rep that took the call and processed the orders? Do you want me to grab any notes out of the system? All of this kind of stuff can make an analyst job hard if um, they aren't asking these right questions
Yeah.
up front. And then when people don't like the answers, an analyst has to be open to, yeah, I'm human, I make mistakes. But then there is also, I've looked over this 5 times and 2 other people have looked over it. And now here is somebody who thinks their commission should have been more, or that they did take more calls or something. And they started, well, where did you pull it from? Well, show me your formulas. And then they don't understand the formulas. Um,
Yeah,
that, yeah.
the comparisons I can draw there is, I mean, because for my job, quite frequently, what I'm asked to do is, can you bring this Excel report and put it in Power BI? So the question is, can you put this data in Power BI? It's like, well, yes, I can factually do that thing,
Yeah.
but then they don't
Yeah.
expect the follow-up questions. You know, what do you want to achieve, or do you need everything that's currently there? It's not
Yeah.
like just a question. It's like, okay, can you do this thing? Because the answer is pretty much, well, it is always yes. We
Yeah.
can connect it to data,
Yeah.
but after you've done those steps, you know, the processes that you've been doing for the past 10 years in this report, do you still want to keep doing these things?
Right.
Is there, are you actually getting some benefit from your current analysis? Are you missing any analysis that you kind of wish that you had that you don't currently have? So it's not just we're moving this to a new tool for the sake of moving it to a new tool because we can put some different easy to put some visualizations on it. What are you
Yeah.
actually achieving by doing so? Yeah.
Yeah. And I believe it is on the analyst to guide that,
Yeah.
because my director that saw that I had this skill, I saw that he was a really good people person. So he put me in charge of handling his data for him. Um, and that's where I learned to ask a lot of questions, because I would go off and go get some data and take it back to him, and then immediately he can see that something's missing or that something isn't the way that he wanted it. So
Yeah.
eventually I had to learn to ask those questions up front before I go take an hour to go do something, come back, and not within even 1 minute is not what he wanted. And sometimes we can villainize those people, but I respected that he's a people person. He was really good at raising the morale and getting people promoted and stuff. He was not a data guy.
No.
Um, you know, working with his photographer. And this is something interesting, is I noticed that there's a couple kinds of people, and I taught 2 different photographers. One, he needed examples that were in his world. The other photographer, she could get the concepts and then apply them to photography, to selling her house and all kind of other things. Right? There's the literal people and the conceptual people. Um, but where was I going? I mentioned a photographer. Right? He doesn't want to learn Excel. He's a photographer in that situation.
Yeah.
Um, I've dealt with a lot of folks who they're really good at what they do,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to be down on somebody who doesn't know how to do their own plumbing if they're not a plumber, right? And Excel and working with data, they're skills.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. This is, I was given a talk in the start of the week on something like buttons and bookmarks and the Power BI. And this is one of the points that I was making, is you have to remember quite often that the person you're creating and designing data and all these reports for is that at the end of the day, they just might want to see the data in a way that they can look at the data, and get what they need. They don't
Yeah.
care about what I do. That's fine. They don't have to
Right.
care about my job or how I achieve it. And this is why when
Right.
you're working on a project, the open discussion is so important. But
Hmm.
also that person helps you learn about business, and you help them learn about what you're going to do to help improve the analysis of their business. Or
Yes.
you can't say,
Yeah.
oh yeah. And this is what I felt quite often, certainly from the Power BI perspective, is that we forget that sometimes. And sometimes a lot of the tool is or can be built for people who only know Power BI. Like there are hidden features and there are things that you can put in reports that you have no idea that it exists, and there's no way you could get the full benefit of a nice new Power BI report unless you knew exactly what was in there. Which is why you
Hmm.
try and have to the I think I know some of my colleagues disagree sometimes. The aesthetic of the report is as important, but yeah, I'll say as important. Why not? As important as all of the rest of it. Because if you have
Okay.
this amazing ETL, you've all your amazing data collection, you've done your data transformation, and you get to the point where you have great data and you can trust it, but if the
Right.
person doesn't know how to read it, and if you don't show it in a way that is accessible, they're not going to do
So
anything with it.
why would some of your colleagues disagree with that?
I just know because they just like having the data in a report, and it's there. You can read the data. You can see it. So as long as
Hmm.
you can see the
Hmm.
data, you can read it. They're happy. And I admit
Right.
sometimes I might spend too much time on that part. Don't get me wrong. I'm like, okay, so
Hmm.
this is cool. I can that, and I'll put this in, and this can make it maybe a little bit easier, or that all type of stuff. So perhaps I do spend too long on that sort of thing because that's kind of what my
Hmm.
most enjoyable part of the process is for me. You know.
Right, right. And that's why I'm wondering if there's some kind of a spectrum here, right? And Jeff Weir is commenting on this that we do this stuff to save customers from pain, but too often other devs don't watch people use our things in the wild. Right,
Mm,
right. Um, and that was a client that asked me to build her a dashboard with three things. And I went home and I came back with this interactive thing that had maybe seven different things. And I
mm.
figured she would want to see big picture, be able to dig down into the smaller picture. And she says, it looks smart, but I kind of hate it. Yep. So there again was I had to learn to ask questions. What does she want to accomplish? And
Mm,
take
mm,
those four things out that I thought would have been helpful. Give her the three things she wanted, because she was overwhelmed.
mm.
She
Yeah.
was in the process of migrating like 300 phone systems, and she was collaborating with people, and she was having to talk with all these managers about yeah, I know your deadline to migrate is in 8 months, but this is a slow process. You need to get going.
Mm,
So um for me to dump that on her, I got it by
mm.
being in her world and seeing she just wanted to see those three things.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. That makes. I mean, what the approach I usually take is ask the person, okay, how do you? What's when you do your job? When you look at data, what's like the first three things that you do? What do you look
Hmm.
at, and then based on that, what do you look at next, and then what do you look at
Yeah.
next? To get this
Yeah.
really basis of the, if you can get those first three things right, it really helps win
Hmm.
them over. You know,
Yeah.
especially from when you introducing a new tool, when you're using something that people have never used before, and they can be quite
Right.
hesitant. You know,
Hmm.
this the user acceptance is just enormous.
Yeah. And user acceptance, that's a big topic,
Yeah,
and what this other comment about sitting beside somebody and seeing how they use a tool,
yeah.
and it's way different than what we might have expected.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's the logic of it's sometimes difficult sorry, easy to forget, I should say, that we don't all share the same logic, that we don't all see things in the same way. If
Right.
you sit down, oh yeah, well, why wouldn't you do it this way? This is, of course you do it that way. It's just so
Hmm.
straightforward. It makes so much sense, but
Right.
to you, but to no one else, it's a strange
Right.
thing. And actually, strangely, this is one of the things that I didn't realize it'd been actually more of a challenge of lockdown, or but because I'm not sitting next to people when they look at my reports,
Hmm.
I have a report, and it was just I was in the office very briefly to get my flu jab about
Hmm.
2 weeks
Hmm.
ago, and there was someone sitting there using my report, and actually,
Mm.
really might be a really weird thing to say, but I forgot what it was like to see someone use one of my reports actually on the screen,
Uh-huh.
because I haven't seen it. So I've seen it on my screen. I've seen me build it, and I've sent it, and I've
Right.
had feedback over Teams. But to actually see them, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. People do that. Forgot about that.
Right. Right. And have you seen some interesting things about how people use what you've built?
Um, at first, more so, yeah. I think
Hmm.
when in the past, I think now because the projects I work on are really collaborative,
Yeah.
So
Okay.
when it is that way, when you have like a good relationship with a stakeholder and you really meet really frequently, it's easier to kind of get there. But when I was first starting out with Power BI, I was a different company, and we're very, very separate from the departments that we work using stuff for, And they come back with questions that I just never ever expected. Or they would it was also questions such as like, because back then also Power BI was very new to the end user. Like if I
Hmm.
click on this button, do the numbers on the axes, do they also change? And I was like, yeah. I was like, that's amazing. I was like, I know, right? So that sort of thing, but nothing too spectacular to be quite honest. One
Okay.
second. Can I say, oh, by the way, you're very very good at reading the comments. It's a skill that I
Oh.
haven't. I had a skill that I have not yet mastered. I try to do both. I suck at it.
Yeah. Yeah. And Anthony, yeah, it would be good to see how people actually use our stuff.
Mm,
And I also, when I've built things, they are, lately after I had to learn, um, that they are way more collaborative, and I try not to go too far in one direction before I get some feedback,
mm,
because yeah, I go and I build something, and then there's something that's way off.
yeah,
Or they tried to do something that they didn't explain. Um, so then is hours of me taking it back and then redoing stuff and then send it back. Um, so yeah, things are a lot more collaborative now
yeah,
where, I've spent say 2 hours on a phone call and a screen share session with a client working out a single formula, or
mm,
setting up 2 hour screen share sessions so that somebody can guide me in what she wants the interface to look like.
mm,
And then things come up and say, oh, you know what? I think that would be better on the other sheet. So in real time,
yeah,
she can give me feedback.
yeah.
Yeah. So,
So was it,
Kabir has a
Kabir?
question.
You ask if you have a question, you just go for it, Kabir. You write your question now. And if it's a technical question, I'll say something like, we're not going to take technical questions this one because then I can go and Google it and then get the answer. What I mean?
Yeah.
Or maybe Oz knows because it's highly
Maybe,
probable.
maybe I do.
I have
Maybe
full
I
faith in
don't.
you, mate. I really
Yeah.
do. I
Yeah.
really do.
Yeah, we will
But
see.
yeah,
I'm waiting for this question.
it's all good. I mean,
Yeah.
we can start to wind it down a little because I promise you only 45 minutes, and I don't want to take too
Hey,
much of your time, mate. You know what I mean?
I'm all right. I'm all right.
How is
How
important? Once I'll bring it up. How important is wireframing in your projects? Husband ban. That's what that is.
so is wireframing is so I know that's a formal term and I've heard that around websites, but is that like sketching out what you want?
Kind of like a blueprint,
Mm-hmm.
like a design. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people talk about this. Um, I don't know if that's what he's talking about. people talk about this and like they'll sketch out on paper first, and
Hmm.
I actually don't do that so much.
No, no. There was only one project I had where a client sent me a picture of pencil drawings that they had
Hmm.
made,
Yeah,
right? But they had a clear vision. Usually, I'll just start building stuff because in Excel it's easy to move stuff around as
mm,
opposed to dealing with a website where if I put something somewhere and then want to move it,
that's true.
then that can be an issue.
That's a good point. Yeah. Maybe I should
Yeah.
do in that case. Maybe I should do it more often. But I mean, I have a blackboard here behind me which I use to draw stuff on sometimes to design
Hmm.
that's back of a cigarette packet exactly.
Yeah.
But no, normally I just kind of for me that comes with a question that I said before when I say what's the first three things that you do when you do your job, and based
Hmm.
on that, that's how I start to design and I put things where I put them.
Okay. Okay.
Um, 1 second. Oh,
Yeah.
1 second. So it could be a.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I can't really. This could be a question. I'll maybe get me on Twitter, or
Yeah.
I'll send you a link. Yeah.
Yeah. And a big thing for me is my world tends to be data cleansing, breaking
Mm,
stuff out of PDFs, clearing out duplicates,
mm.
splitting, you know, IDs from names,
Right.
all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So I don't do a whole lot of visualization, but
No.
I've built a fair amount of tools and they're very collaborative when I do it.
But I also love Power Query. I mean, I
Yeah,
I, I,
Power
st-
Query.
I started. I mean, I was working with Power Query, but before I was working with Power BI, and I love Power Query. I could spend all
Mm,
day. Cleaning data is such a satisfying feeling, which is why I
mm-hmm,
really love linking to websites that don't have a great data structure. You scrape that
mm,
data, and the things that I had to do. I mean, probably I could have done them a lot better. But one of the
mm-hmm,
first things I used to do when I was working with Power Query, I'd be linking to websites and to create reports based on like sports reports,
mm-hmm.
and just to right click into inspect element in whatever Chrome to see where I could start and first. Okay, I know that this one word that's where I start. So if I do that, I'll get rid of everything before that, and then create
Yes.
indexes. And okay, so I need everything from index number 56 down over.
Mm-hmm.
Working with messy data is very very helpful to learn, but it's also really good fun.
Yeah, it's hard to learn. Um, and I believe it should be treated as its own skill.
Yeah,
Um, because
yeah,
a lot of the folks who've learned their statistics and they know a lot about designing a good dashboard and accessible colors and stuff, um, they don't
mm,
clean data
yeah,
or
right.
they clean it in a very painful kind of way.
Okay.
But then part of it is how people learn those more advanced skills is they learn it on clean data.
Yeah,
You know,
true.
um, my friend who got his master's in digital marketing, he knows the analysis and everything, but in college he had fancy, expensive tools,
Hmm.
and the data was clean.
Yeah.
So now you get reports from four different places, and they're not immediately ready to append. Everything stops.
Yeah.
Now they're looking for unpaid interns to sit in a
Mm.
corner and manually move this stuff around.
Mm.
Yeah. And there was one question Jeff asked, what would be my number one next feature I want in Excel or Power Query?
Well spotted. Good question.
Um, One thing that I would like in Power Query, if I've got a long list of steps, all right, and at the last step, there is like row 200 bombed out.
Mm-hmm.
So now I want to know where it bombed out. So I go to first step, and then Power Query goes all the way back to the first row, and then I got to scroll back down to 200. Second step, boom,
Yeah.
I got to scroll down. Okay, it didn't bomb out yet.
Mm.
Third step, scrolling down.
Yeah.
Ah, I
Yeah,
would like a way for it to stay at row 200 so I can go through the steps to see where it crapped out.
that's reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there is I think it's called a iterative import or something
Hmm.
like that, where I had a client that would import a bunch of data every Saturday, and it was fine up until about June. And then it started to slow down. The import started to slow down.
Okay.
And then by September, it would just crash sometimes, or it would take an hour and then crash. Um, and the client was saying, so if we're in September,
Mm.
August's data might change, but anything before August is not going to change. But Power Query is still importing it all the way back to the 1st of January.
Yeah.
So it would be nice to tell Power Query, just import this extra stuff.
So rather like the what's the word? The incremental refresh.
Incremental.
Incremental refresh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Which
Yeah.
in Power BI is achievable, but it's frustrating to set up. Power Query, I'm not sure. Power Query in Excel, I don't know, but I know in incremental refresh in Power BI exactly. Yeah, it is Power BI.
Yeah.
It is achievable. Though I don't like using it so much. It's
Hmm.
I mean it's helpful. Don't get me wrong, of course, for the reason that you just said. But I find it frustrating to work with. And you also need to have data, right? I can't remember. I'm going to start revealing my ignorance soon, so I'm going to stop talking.
Okay. And I wonder if it's I've heard about the incremental refresh in Power BI,
Mm.
but is it on the free version? I've heard it's on a paid version. I don't know because I'm not a Power BI person.
Yeah, you get it. You get it with Pro. It used to be premium only. You get it with Pro now.
Okay.
But I think in without license, it should work as well without license. But once you publish it, maybe not.
Okay. All right. Now,
Yeah. Can I just
Anthony
get?
seems. Huh? Go ahead.
I was going to say this K Joshua design. Just so you know, I work with this guy every day. He's very good at designing dashboards. Be nice to yourself, Kay.
Hmm.
This is one of my colleagues. So I'm just going to put
Hmm.
that up just to say that he's lying. He's been very, very humble. He's good at building dashboards.
Wow. Wow.
Sorry, mate. Which one? What were you going to look at? What were you going
No,
to say?
there was Anthony is saying data is clean. What world does he live in?
Ah, okay. Yeah.
Um, if he's referring to my examples, um, it's in controlled settings where folks learn on clean data. It's in a classroom on maybe interpreting surveys, let's say,
Hmm.
and so they've cleaned out any duplicates. They've taken care of anything that might be weird so that they can focus only on analyzing survey results.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay, but then they get out into the real world, and now fields are missing. Uh, Folks have lied about what their real birthdays are.
Yeah.
All kinds of stuff that they don't take time. They can't take time to do in those
True.
control situations.
I was going to say because surveys are probably one of the most dirty data sets you're ever going to see because of
Yeah,
all the manual input and the incorrect stuff and
yeah,
just anything that starts with that level of manual input with the person just typing some stuff and not really caring about it is always going to be a nightmare to work with. Well,
yeah,
nightmare to get, but fun to clean. But as you say, yeah,
yeah.
it's an acquired
And
skill.
it could be anything. It could be just plain old statistics.
Mm,
And I've done hackathons before,
mm,
and the leaders of the hackathon will say, look, we spent the last 2 weeks cleaning this data.
mm.
So, if you
Yeah,
get or you do some analytical analysis of it,
mm,
um, you don't have to worry about the quality of the data. Because so
yeah,
they take that off everybody's plate.
yeah, yeah. True. I'm sorry, people are just answering the question about Power BI and incremental refresh. So yes, Premium per user, that has them, and also, where are we? Some other stuff. Pro version. Pro is enough for incremental, so Pro,
Okay.
and yeah, there we go.
Okay.
So
Cool.
I have to start to wrap this up now because I actually have to go
Oh.
myself now to spend some time
Oh,
with
you do? Oh, okay. All
with my
right.
wife. Hey, I
Oh,
could sit.
you did the married thing.
Yeah, I could
Okay.
sit here and talk for a long time, and trust me, my wife knows I could talk about Power BI all
Yeah.
night long,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is why I have my own office just so she can't hear me.
Mm.
But yeah, I do have to go in a couple minutes. It's been
All
really,
right. So
yeah,
yeah. So let me answer Anthony, and then we can wrap this up.
go for it, man.
He says
It's awesome.
in his experience, CRM data has been horrendous. Okay,
Well,
this is where I want to ask the database people, the SQL people, all of them to be quiet, understand where we're coming from. My Excel skill was necessitated because CRM data in the international company's database was horrendous.
hmm.
So when they say, why are you doing that in Excel? Why isn't this in a database? Because, as Anthony said, what? CRM data has been horrendous. You go in there and you see somebody's got 4 profiles in the system.
Yeah,
That,
exactly.
yeah.
So basically, messy data helps us grow. You are the result of messy data. What?
Yeah, messy data helps us grow. Yeah, well, if you up for it, because I believe that a special person deals with dirty data.
Hmm.
They're the pretty folks who want to do the dashboards and whatnot. But when you
Can we
have
get a special person deals with dirty data on a T-shirt? That would be fantastic. Or a
yeah,
hat. A special person deals with dirty data. It would be a
yeah,
great for like some kind of slogan or something. I love that.
yes, a special person, because your glamorous people, they do the dashboards. They make their wild formulas and stuff. So, ooh, look at me. But
Love it.
who is around when you break data out of a PDF? Not pretty people. No, they're too good for that. They don't want to mess up their tie or to break their heels or something. No,
Oh man, love it.
dirty. Somebody's got to be ready to say, well, grab you by the throat, or I'll pull your ears.
Oh
We're
my,
not playing here today. Or
I
pull
would
out
say
this
that is a
turkey foot. Okay.
love it.
Yeah.
I did see.
You love the turkey foot?
I didn't
Yeah.
see that. I didn't see that coming. I mean,
Right.
you just grab off camera a turkey foot like you do. You know what I mean? I got a glass of water. You got a turkey foot. Why not?
That's right. That's right. Because
Oh man.
if some product doesn't work, an if doesn't work,
Hmm.
um pulling ears doesn't work,
Hmm.
then maybe you use a spell with a turkey foot. I mean, it's you got to be covered because
Oh
it's not fun. But database the dashboard people, oh, they just prance in. Oh, you want a dashboard?
we there to take all the
Oh,
glory.
look at this. Yeah, they do. But see, that's another part of this personality where you gotta want to get muddy
Hmm.
and cut your foot on some barbed wire.
Hmm.
You know, there's something to be said for that. There's honor in that.
Love it. Getting like Klingon now. There's honor in it.
Klingon.
Yeah. About
Yeah,
the honor of battle with data or something. You know.
battling with because all those pretty people with the high heel shoes and the ties and lapel pins and fascinators and things. They wouldn't have anything without us. Nothing.
Oh man,
Nothing.
I'm gonna send this to like maybe I don't know the C levels. You know what I mean?
Okay.
All the
Right.
managers for like, okay, I've just there's some things that you need to hear.
Yeah, yeah, they need to hear this because see, and I've said before that not everybody needs a dashboard. Everybody needs clean data because sometimes all you need is a list of, like, my commissions example. Okay, and it's based on a number of calls that people took. Okay, so Joanne took 800 calls, Phil took 459 calls.
Hmm.
Okay, now there's a grid on what their commission should be. Boom. That's what you need. We don't need a dashboard for that, but we do need for the data to get clean. And we got to deal with like Joanne,
Hmm.
and there's Joe space Ann, there is Joanne, there is J-O space A-N-N-E. That's the kind of stuff that we got to deal with. That's cutting
Yeah,
your foot on some barbed wire.
it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
I can only agree.
And Carrie has to run. All right, Carrie, run
Thank you for
fast,
joining
run
me, Carrie.
free. Yes, thank you for being here.
Oh, I
Yes.
hope you enjoyed it. Everyone seems to enjoy it. I've enjoyed it. I've had an
All right.
awesome chat, mate. I feel
Yeah.
genuinely bad that I had to stop talking. I do.
Okay. All right. All right.
I'm sorry, mate. I'm sorry.
No problem. All right. All
It
right.
was really. I love the fact that really we really peaked there, and then came the chicken foot, and it was just like this is awesome. This is
All right.
awesome.
All right.
I decided to have live chats because I thought it'd be good fun to like meet people and talk to people and like share ideas and stuff. And the stuff that I never thought would happen, that's of course the most fun
Mm,
part. And mate,
mm.
you've just been up there, absolutely up
Thank you.
there.
Thank you. I've enjoyed this.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, been a
All
pleasure.
right.
I can only agree with what Bernat is saying. A session two at some point. Why not? The sequel.
The sequel.
Awesome, mate. Thank you so much for joining. And everyone else,
Thank
thank
you.
you for taking part in questions and comments. It's always such good fun. And next week, I'll be back, and I will be back with, before I forget who I'm back with, next week, we'll be back with Owen Algo. So that should be a nice chat.
Oh, Owen. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That
All
should be good
right.
fun.
Good. All right.
So we'll leave it there. Thank you again, everyone. And Oz, it was a pleasure, mate.
Yes.